that fracture became the foundation.
Yeah, there are things that I would not be okay with.
The moment where I was like, okay, I need to change. Enough is enough. I feel like I wasted my 30s. I wasted my 20s. Who's putting that pressure on? It's me. It's not you.
When I think of like the king and queen, it's like you are the king and you are to be respected. And also shows up in the way that I speak about you to others. Nothing is off limits. That's what I told my clients when I mentioned that I was going to do a podcast episode with the one and only, my king, the legend himself, Paul Silva. We've been married for 30 years and we get into all of your questions. Welcome to Possibilities with me, Hina Khan. I'm a peak performance mindset coach and I help you create a life you love with ease, joy, and fun. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Hina, glad to be here.
Okay, we have had some questions come in for the both of us. Those that have been following me know a little bit about our relationship, but there could be some people that are getting to know us or being introduced to us for the first time. So, with that, I thought, why don't we set the stage of our relationship?
A relationship or situationship?
I hope it's a relationship by now. It's been 30 years. So we got married in 1995. I was 25. And I think now, if I hear of people like if Sophia or Ava, our nieces, were getting married at this age, I would be like, no, it's
No,
way too young.
it is. I had people when we were engaged were like, "You're too young. You're too young." I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm old enough to know." But I think now I'd be like, "Hold off."
Yeah. And so, it's been a relationship of for over 30 years, just over 30 years, ups and downs. How would you describe the relationship or what the marriage has been like for you?
I think it's been, uh, I think it's been a direct reflection of our own inner journeys. I think it's been sort of like the playground, if you will. This intersection of you and what we have been going through individually and working through our stuff and it kind of showing up. It was all like it's it was like a projector, like like we're watching a movie, a screen, and the projector was like our lives, our reels kind of intersecting and being shown. And as I've grown, as you've grown, the marriage has changed and blossomed and shifted. And I think it's we've definitely had the low points, but I think and we've had lots of high points. And uh it's just a fluid growing thing. I think it's been really wonderful.
I think we're at the best place we've ever been now,
Yeah, 100%.
I would say. And what some people may not know is that 5 days after we got married, my father died.
Yeah.
So our marriage kind of started in this place where I had immense grief. I had not felt grief like that ever in my life, and I haven't felt grief like that
Mhm.
even with losing other people that are close to me, like my grandmother. But that losing my dad, that was such a shock, and that's how our marriage started. What was that like for you during that time? Do you remember?
I just remember I was at school. I was at George Brown, and I remember getting a call, and I remember going into a private room in here, and then I think I went up to your place where your dad was. I Yeah, it's hard for me to remember. I mean, it was like 30 years ago, but it was hard. Like it was just like this is how it kind of started, and not that it was a harbinger or an omen or anything like that, but it was just like okay, we're getting tested right away, so to speak.
Yeah, that was very, very difficult for me, and I think on the both of us as well when we're supposed to be kind of in our newlywed honeymoon phase and to have this happen, and it came as such a shock too, so it was very unexpected. So that was one of the challenging points, and you talked about low points and high points. So why don't we start with some of the low points? What were some of the low points for you in our relationship?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying, the drinking, the alcohol for me, and what that brought into the marriage. And it was very destructive. First, it was destructive here within me. And then that, just like I said, it's a projector of where we were. And so I was projecting a lot of stuff. I was struggling with my own identity. I was struggling with this thing that was slowly taking me over. It was poisoning me in mind, body, and spirit. And how could it not come into the marriage? And so it was a magnification of all the things I was thinking about myself, like low self esteem and low. And, I think a part of me is like, why is she with me? Why would she be with me? Like there's so many better men out there. And look at me and I'm a piece of crap. And because there was so much self loathing.
Mhm.
And so obviously there was so much of that got brought into the marriage. And, uh, it wasn't until, you know, I got sober, I think that's where things really started to change. Of course, it would, and having said that, a lot of, um, that wasn't the main thing, right? Because there's a lot of couples that when one person does clean up their act, it's not automatic that things get better. In fact, a lot of times
Mm.
marriages dissolve or partnerships dissolve because a certain dynamic has been created and now it's been shifted and sometimes it gets even more or less. But I think we were able to come back to each other as different people.
Yeah, that's so true because when the dynamic gets shifted, it's like, can I have a healthy version of you?
Yeah.
And can you have a healthy version of me? Because you weren't with a healthy version of me because I was enabling this as well, unconsciously, albeit maybe a little consciously too, but I wasn't in a healthy place to because otherwise I wouldn't be in the relationship. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have let it go on as long as it did. So it's very true. It's like, could we be with healthier versions of ourselves? And we were able to do that. But I can see how not everybody would be because the dynamic then shifts dramatically.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that that was definitely a turning point for us and coming back as and I think that was that fracture became the foundation.
The fracture became the foundation. Can you say
Because
more about that?
well, this it's like a thunderstorm. There's this gathering of energy and it needs to be released. And so there's this thunder and it may seem jarring and it's loud and it's noisy and you get soaked but that energy is necessary because then things clear up and then there's growth under with what comes in. There might be some destruction along the way, especially powerful storms, but it's like this energy needed to clear. And I think for both of us, the moment where I was like, okay, I need to change. Some like this is enough. And it felt like just a lot of stuff got purged through that fracture. And then that was the beginning, the basis of like, okay, so we've gone through this. Now let's kind of start in a new way. And that started growing and blossoming for each of us in our different ways.
I remember that when you released your first book, and it was a lot of your blogs and entries from that time in your life and earlier as well. I never read the book. I still have not read the book, because I feel like I've lived it. I've lived
Yeah.
some of it. I actually don't know because I haven't read the book. But I rarely think back to those times. It's interesting. It's like I rarely think back to those times, very, very rarely.
Mhm.
Um, and when I do, I think there is some sadness, but it's not really how I think about our relationship. It's only to create context and for people to know and to be completely transparent in this conversation that we would talk about it. But it if I think about our marriage, I don't think of those times. And in the 30 years, I think we might be coming almost close to the halfway point.
Mhm.
but we were more in those times than we were not
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be 15 years next year for
for you.
for me. So that'll be
Yeah,
so we will have just will hit we're pretty much at the even where it's almost like that part was the prologue of
yeah,
the story, right? And then I rarely think of it too, not because there's shame or guilt, it's just there's no need for it maybe as a reference now and then, but it's not a like they say the past is a place of reference, not residence. And so
oh, the past is a place of reference, not residence. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm not living there. Even people who have written books as well about their drinking. I don't read them either because I've been there, done that. Like I
you
don't
know
need.
how that ended.
I know how those end. I like those war stories and the things. I'm like old hat. Okay, like I like the transformation. I like
Yeah.
the shift. I like the skies opening up part. That's the part that is it's easy to sit in the old stories, whatever story you have. It's easy to sit in that in the poor times and eh, but I think the shift, I think that's where a lot of the joy is and the learnings. And so for us, the second half, the second act has been incredible.
Yeah, it's been really, really great. Do you ever have regret that the second act didn't start sooner, that it took as long as it did? Do you ever think about that?
Not so much the marriage. I think I have struggled for the longest time, and there's still a part of me, a little where it's like, why did it take me so long to get
Yeah,
so like I was 40,
yeah.
you know, uh, I still like, I feel like I wasted my 30s. I wasted my 20s. I wasted it being wasted. And part of I had always beat myself up for that. It's like, why couldn't I have just been smart enough to catch this sooner? Why did I have to wait till the elevator crashed to the bottom? Why couldn't I just stepped off at any other time? And I have to just keep coming back to the space of, well, that was what was needed. That's just what it was needed. I'm glad that I got there eventually. There's some people that just don't get there. So I have to temper it with, the what I can't play the what if game. It's just a losing game.
And so we talked about some of the low points. What for you are some of the high points?
Ooh, I think, what comes up is like traveling has been like for me seeing your success. It's been, obviously with our boys, and the family. I think it's just all those foundational kind of things. I think, and we have our moments. Obviously, there's moments along the day. We can. It's hard to pick out one thing because there are just so many of varying levels of joy and exuberance and revelation. And so, but I think those. I think finding your track and you stepping into that so powerfully. It's been inspiring to me and others, and um just how we've been able to manage with the boys, and seeing them starting to become their own young men and being a part of that. And like I mentioned, we travel a lot and we enjoy travel. And I think it was just, and then just us examining what, as things grow and we grow and we change, it's like, what do we want? Like constantly, you know, pushing one another or just, examining like where do we go next? I think that's fun.
Yeah, and I think now, as in contrast to the first act, it really feels like a partnership
Hmm.
as well, and that's really fun too, is that it truly feels like a partnership. I think a high point for me is watching you as a father as
Mm.
well. I've really loved seeing you, lead the boys in how you lead them, and I'm excited for your upcoming trip with you and Yusuf, and I just feel like, oh my gosh, our boys are so lucky to have you be an example of masculinity, of leadership, the way that you communicate with them, the way that, who you are for them. I don't know that they realize it. Um, we've got obviously more life experience and know what other situations look like and have experienced other situations. But I feel like that's a high point for me.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And that's a challenge place for me.
Mhm.
You know, that's I remember a therapist, one of many, saying, the thing with children is that you relive your childhood. And so with things in my childhood, there was like I had a lot of fear, let's say bullying and things like that. And fatherhood still is challenging to me um, because it brings me back to my old kind of wounds in a way. And so not imposing that on them
Yeah.
and also letting them just do their own thing and just not to place judgment. Obviously, we're here to protect them and to guide them and lead them in some ways, but at the same time, you don't want to stifle and suffocate any of their own expression and growth. So it's always a balance. And then, of course, with the masculine, feminine energies and how does that look? It's yeah, there's a lot of times I'm like, am I doing this right? Just like for you being their mother, it's like, am I doing this right? Am I overdoing it? Am I two hands off? Am I two hands on? Like every parent. I mean, this we're not unique that way.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do love it. I've loved watching this in our second act. And, they're growing up. Yusuf is gonna be going to university, he'll be
Yeah.
going away, and so it's just I think it's interesting, and I'm also looking forward to our relationship as we enter this phase as well with having soon to be having adult children.
Mm, yeah. What is
So,
it reminds
go
me it reminds me of someone said that parents will know their kids more as adults than they do as kids.
Mm,
And I was like, "Oh, that's right." So it kinda reminds you that, like,
yeah.
it's not for long, and then before you know it, you're gonna be interacting with your kids as adults.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I can't. You're gonna I'm yeah, I'm already just, like, randomly starting to get teary at times just thinking about this new phase of our life, but I think what's really nice is that because I feel we have such a strong partnership,
Mhm.
I also look forward to it for us
Yeah.
and what we can create and what this means for us. So, with that, we had some questions, so hopefully we've created enough of a little bit of context of where we are in our relationships as we dive into these questions. These questions came straight from my clients. So the first
Boy.
question is how to keep the passion growing and the spark lit over the years.
Oof. Right off they went right for the jugular on that.
They did not hold back.
These are your clients.
They are. Okay. Well, what would you say, Paul? Keeping in mind that your mom listens to this
Yes,
and the
yes.
internet is forever.
The internet is forever, and our kids will stumble over it, and, for this is for mom and everyone else. We have separate rooms, and we just just and then now we can talk. I think I think, I feel it's not like a tip or a technique or a thing like that.
Mhm.
I think it's just the emotional connection. I think it's just having fun, like, just throughout the day, or it's having that spark, not just in a certain place, like a bedroom or something. Like, I think it's just I think that is, I think in terms of passion, it's not I think it's just in general, like, how you and I relate to one another, how we see each other, how we, um, identify with one another. So, it's not just, a mother and, someone that we do some work together or anything like that. Like, it's like seeing you for you entirely. And I think for me, that's what helps me to like stay connected to you is that, it's you, like it's your hearts, it's your soul, like that's what I'm connected to and that's what I'm drawn to still. And for me, that's what keeps me connected to you. I don't know if that makes sense or how you see it.
Yeah, I do see it that way, and I think that there's gotta be consciousness around it because, you're at different seasons and different stages of your life, so some of you might be listening to this and you've got toddlers. That's gonna be very different
Oh, yeah.
than
Yeah.
when you've got teenagers, and it's accepting that this is the stage. So I think sometimes we think and have been thought, "Okay, well, when we get through this, then we'll be able to be connected more in
Yeah.
different ways." And then it was just realizing, actually, there's always going to be circumstances and conditions. So this just has to be a priority. This just has to be something that we have to be able to communicate on because the teens require something different than the toddlers, but there's always something that can be the easy out, I think,
Mhm.
and we have fallen into that at times
Oh, yeah.
where it's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, no, I wanna feel more committed," but our unconscious commitment is that it's the first thing that will drop, date nights, things like that. So,
Yeah.
I think we at times have had to, like, have the conversation and then bring it back and look at what is happening.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, which we've talked about recently, is the polarity as well as far as keeping the spark. So I do think of Paul as the protector and the provider in the family. And then throughout our marriage of 30 years, for the most part, for most of it, he was the primary earner and then it switched. Um, so, but we still needed to create that polarity. And some of the ways that we do it is, again, like when we go out, what do I say?
I'm not bringing anything.
Yeah. I say I'm not bringing anything. Sometimes I'm not even bringing my phone. I'm not bringing my wallet. I'm not bringing anything because I really want to just be able to be able to relax and to be in my feminine, especially from running a business, a team,
Mhm.
hundreds of clients, where I don't want to make a decision. I just do not want to make a decision. And that was something that we had to start to really come to and understand that we had to create polarity
Mhm.
in the relationship of the masculine and feminine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that's not something that came easy to me either.
Mhm.
Uh because it's been easy for me to step into my feminine because it's for many reasons. But to step into that part and to feel good about it and to play that masculine role and just really to have, like you said, that polarity so that there's like having those distinct inner energies intertwine. I think that that's important. And um, it's been really helpful. Like that is something I've had to work on, right?
Mhm.
Just like for you, you've had to learn to sit in your feminine. That wasn't easy at first either. Like to actually rest and relax and chill and just nourish and nurture yourself. Like that's hard when you're just 24/7 going. And so we both had to sort of step into get out of default
Yes.
and make conscious efforts to step into that other space that may scare us a little bit, but was not only for the benefit of ourselves, but for the relationship.
And I think that the default can change over the relationship. So then you create a new default, just like a new with a relationship of over 30 years. So there's got to be a consciousness brought to it and then the communication to be very open, which we have been, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
So I think it's the communication is what has helped to keep things growing. And then really in this day and age is creating that polarity with the energetics.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
that is also where you have to give space to your partner to step into that. Because we're not going to get it right all the time. And you've got to be able to create a space where nobody feels criticized
Mhm.
for how they are doing it as well, I think makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Question number 2. This has to do with our relationship and the kids. It says, I would like to ask you, how did you manage your relationship with your kids as you were changing and growing over the years? Did they always accept your change? Did you change the relationship with them as you were changing the relationship with yourself? Hmm.
Mm. As a father, it's important that, like for me, the way I've been parenting has been sort of modeling. And we know that kids, you can tell them a million times, but they're just watching. And I learned this from, being a leader, like working in lots of places in high level positions where uh, you can bark all you want, chirp all you want, but they're watching. And because I can see them watching, and the way that someone comports themselves, like you set the tone. And I found that, like, for me with the boys, as I've grown and changed, I just allowed that to be just part of who I am. Like, I wasn't hiding. I don't feel like I hide anything necessarily. There's certain things that, as parents, there's some boundaries, of course, and self-containment, and there's some things that they're not for the kids, but I think overall we're pretty open, like, as you are. And I think it's to their benefit. I think it's important that they see that we are changing and growing. I think it's important that they see that we will go work out, go for a run, go for a bike, go to Pilates. Like, it's important that they see that we practice self care, we practice compassion, we practice self discipline, we practice, integrity. Because those are the takeaways that they're going to unconsciously bring to their lives and their adulthood. And so, in a way, my growth, your growth is their growth.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's the way that we've just done things naturally. So we've involved them and shared with them as age appropriate things.
Hmm.
So I remember when they just knew they've never really seen you drink, obviously. And they just knew that you didn't, but they didn't know any of the reason why. It
Yeah.
was never brought up. And then one day I think it was one of your anniversaries, and we had
Yeah.
talked about it, and they were like, "What's that?" And then we had mentioned it. That's when we talked about it and shared with them. They were like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And the other way I think that we involve them as we're changing is we share what our goals are as well.
That's right.
So when you did the marathon before, we were there cheering you on as you were doing that, and they knew that that was a goal of yours. I used to have, when I was working with Bob closely, a goal that I would hit, and in the beginning, it was such a big deal, but then I always hit it. I think I hit it like
Yeah.
20 plus times because it just became um my part of my self-image to hit this goal. But for sure in the beginning, they were so excited about me hitting certain milestones and goals in my business as well. And if something goes viral or something like that, we'll share it
Yeah.
with them. So I think
Yeah.
we share our goals as well, which is something that has evolved as they've grown, so that they also know why of why we do what we do. And we let them have their own opinions, about it as well, meaning that we may be spiritual. I mean, we may, talk about these sorts of things. You meditate a lot, but we still give them space to figure out what it is for them, and we recognize they're on their own journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so
Next.
number 3. How have your individual money stories and beliefs shaped your approach to finances as a couple? How have you navigated creating a money story together? And do you have a memorable money moment as a couple to share? Well, I think I'll start this one because
Mhm.
what comes to mind for me is my dad dying right when we got married and then also having an inheritance. And that inheritance allowed us to be able to do some things which other people at our age couldn't, like put a down payment on a home, for example. But it was not um clean.
Mm,
Because it came through death. We had just gotten married. It was actually something that I really, really struggled with for many, 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 many years. Um, and then I would say as a couple, because we have switched who's been the primary earner at different times, that is something that I think is interesting in our relationship. It always has not been the same. So we've had to look at money in different ways and how it flows through and to each other when one person might be the primary earner at that time.
mm.
What are your thoughts on this, Paul? And do you have a memorable money moment as a couple between us?
Uh, the thing with your dad, yeah, and I didn't know it at the time that you were struggling with that. I didn't it
Mhm,
wasn't something that you shared. It wasn't
mhm.
until much later.
I don't think I knew. I don't think I had the
Yeah,
awareness that I knew, "Oh, I am struggling with this."
yeah. Uh, I think it was further on where you were struggling. Well, I remember 2 things. One was when you were a psychotherapist and you were charging, I think it was, I don't know, $60 a session or something like that. And you were bumping it up to like 85 and you really struggled with that. Like there was like, I don't know, 85, like it was a big deal.
Yeah,
It was a big deal. It's funny now, but at the time it was just like, oh my God, like it's almost double. Like what are people? And so I was working full time. Yeah. So my idea of money just came through an employer. You were just going out for the first time, like doing this. I was like, oh, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an entrepreneur. And then I think the other time was something similar, but on a different scale. Uh, I think you had something going for 30,000. I think it was one on one, and you came back from Arizona after seeing Steve, your coach, and you just asked me like you asked me this as if you were asking me to like turn up the thermostat by 2 degrees. You said, "Yeah, can you just change 30,000 to 100,000?" And I was like, What?"
really?
Yeah, you remember
Ah,
that?
I don't remember that. I don't remember that
Oh,
conversation.
oh yeah, no, but it was just so like you're just like, yeah. By the way, can you? It's like asking
Yeah.
me to pick up like milk at the store or something. It's just, yeah, can you just change it to 100,000? I'm like, what? I was like, excuse me. Like it wasn't. It was my money's thing that got challenged. Just like, oh my gosh, like I was in awe, but it just showed me like, holy crow, like you are just flying in terms of like your conscious awareness and just your money paradigm is being shifted and quantum, because I was like, oh my gosh, like in a way I was at that 60 to 85 hump in some ways in my when I left and I started doing my own thing. I was kind of there still, and you were like leap years ahead of doing this big thing. I was like, oh my gosh, is anyone gonna you know go for that, like and you're just like, "Yeah," and then you moved on, like, you just floated away into something else, I don't know. So I think that was, like, a big, like, wow moment for me.
And then with that, how has the growth of the business, which has come from my personal growth,
Mhm.
uh, you know, because wealth creation, as we know, is from within, how has that impacted you?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I think is amazing. Like, I've always said, like, I just how you've built the business is always astounded me, like, honestly, like, it as kind of an outsider, right? Like, I'm not in your head, I'm not there processing this stuff, so just on the outside going, "Oh my god, like, she does," and how many times do I tell you, like, "You've done this, like, you did this, like, you created this," like, to remind you, like, this didn't come out of thin air, and, it's been inspiring for me. I still definitely have a lot of money, uh, struggles, like, mindset in terms of, how the message I received growing up, you know, not necessarily from my parents per se, but just in general that, good is good enough.
Mhm.
and it still echoes in some ways, still reverberates for me. Like, why do I need to get to the next level? I'm okay. Like, I'm okay here. Like, yeah, I sure I'd like some more, but and whereas you don't have that, like it's like, it's at a different level. And so it is inspiring for me because I know that I still need to push through in that area for myself.
If you want to. I think that
Yeah.
what's interesting, and I think why this works, is that I freaking love this. I
Mhm.
love generating
Yeah.
wealth. I love building the business. I love making an impact on a
Mm.
global scale. It is truly my desire, and it doesn't have to be anybody else's desire. Like, I just want you to do what you wanna do. And if that whatever that is, if that's
Mm.
like meditating 20 hours a day and that's it, just please continue to feed us, um, because otherwise we die. But
Yes.
I think that it's what's made the difference is that I I'm just doing what I love to do, and this just happens to be what it is. And
Yeah.
like, there is no top for me. I just feel like, at 55, here I'm and I keep saying this, I think I said this at 50, I'm just getting started, but I really feel that way, and I'm excited about what is possible. And then I do think a core money memory came to me, that had to do with money, and this is why I love it. I loved when I took your parents, my
Oh,
brother,
yeah.
his wife, the girls, our boys to Jamaica for my 50th, and we just hung out, and I was able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that it was a big thing for you. And of course, everyone benefited and it just brought you joy
It just
to
brought me so
yeah,
much joy. I'll just
yeah.
never forget seeing your parents, um, just in their little area, in their little outdoor area, and I think at one point your dad's even there's some, like, hand weights there, and he's doing some weights, and we're playing games and the things, but it was really honestly seeing your parents just relax that
Mhm.
brought me so much joy out of all of that. Listen, I've taught the girls well. The nieces, they have
Fine.
no trouble relaxing. They can get and my brother, no, like, all of a sudden, he's asking me to get a daiquiri. I'm like, I am done. I threw money at this situation. You can get
You're on
the
your own.
daiquiri yourself. But seeing your parents relax and more recently, for your mom's birthday, being able to have, you know, to be able to have the family, your brother, his
Mm.
family, my brother at, at for lunch and really create something beautiful and to be able to do that, that's what brings me so much joy.
Yeah. Yeah, and as an add-on to, for so many years, I was creating these goals that were there was a number attached to them. And I struggled. I'm like, why am I not hitting these goals? And I realize is that for me, like money is not the main motivator for me. Like it just never has. I mean, I went to cooking way before like chefs were famous and cult of person. So I was going in like a bridge troll. I think at one point I was making like 22,000 a year, but I didn't think about that. I just did it because I loved it, etc. And what has been important for me is just with around money is just if I put money first, I'm chasing then. And so it really is like you said, like, and you've told me countless times, you've never once have you said, "Hey, let me see your P&L. Let me see." Like it's just are you happy? Are you doing your things? Are you taking care of us? Make sure we don't die. Um and
Feeding us.
yeah. And so I had a lot of guilt around that.
Mhm.
Like just a lot of guilt, like I should be doing more. I should and I always say to myself, well, who's putting that pressure on? It's me. It's not you. And so now I'm back in a place where I'm like, okay, I want to do things now again. Like I want to start creating. And it's coming not from a place of like, oh God, I have to look at my bank. No, it's just like, let me just see what's fun
Mhm.
and build from there. And so that is a lesson I've had to relearn over and over.
and it was one of my goals to retire you. Like, that was
Mm.
actually a goal that I had, was to be able to create that so that that could happen because, you went very far, as far as you could go in the restaurant industry,
Mm.
obviously making a lot more than the 22,000 at that time, and but you didn't wanna go any further in it.
Yeah, and I had done television, I had done
Yes.
teaching, colleges, I had done catering, I had d like, there was nothing left for me to prove. Not that I was out there to prove it was to prove to myself, and once I was done, I'm like, "I think I'm done." Like, it's run its course, and there was just, like, another, the second mountain. What's the second mountain? What's the next thing I wanna do? And I know a lot of people step into different things now. It's just more common because you've done the thing. You've gone to school, you got the degree, you got the job, you got the promotions, you have the kids, you have the house, or whatever it is, like the typical, stereotypical thing. And then you sit one day and going, okay, now what? I've got another 30, 40 years to live.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just like, I'm done, I'm good. And
Yeah.
I haven't thought of it. I rarely think about it ever. Like, should I go back? No,
Yeah.
there's so much more to go ahead.
And I'll also say what's interesting just about the money perspective, and then we've got 2 more questions, is that you do a lot in the business, in my business. And it was you recognizing the value of that. Like, I I I receive when you tell me, like, "Look at what you've created, and you're so, positive, and I could do this because of you." Not only all of the support for me to do this, but also all of the things that you do in the business to
Mm.
help. If anybody speaks to anybody on our team, you will know that Paul does so much behind the scenes that people do not see. So, but you had to recognize that as you're not just helping your wife, like, you had to make a shift in your own mind around that too.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
contribution and how valuable it is.
Yeah, that took some time, but it's gotten there. So that has made a difference for me.
Okay, next question. Um, I love your dedication to the notion, "He is my king, I am his queen," and would love to expand on that mindset, how it works both in theory and day-to-day practice, how you 2 honor each other and yourselves.
Ooh. Uh, I think part of it, I think it comes back to that spark thing about the communication, about like the polarity. I think a lot of that comes
Mm,
in, and it's not like, you know, you're my queen, and it's not about putting someone on a pedestal. It's to me, it's more like, how can I take care of you in a way that, like, almost like in a noble way, but also in a way to recognize, because a queen and king have power. Like, these are kind of like powerful positions traditionally. And so it's not about dominating or a rankness. It's more like recognizing your power. And so how do I do that in day to day is, yes, taking care of things in certain ways. Whether it's, you know, warming up the car before you go into winter, or, like where you say, I'm not bringing anything, and I take care of all the stuff, or arranging certain things. Um, but also recognizing your, like, like the essence of who you are. It's hard to, like, it to me, it's like more philosophical, but it's seeing you for who you are and your potential, and treating you like, in that way, like, this is someone that is precious to me, and someone who is powerful in her way and creating things in her way. And how can I support her in that? And also maybe reflecting times is like I say, like, you've done this, like, remember who you are. Um, you know, Seeing you as a mother, that mother part in there. and how you nurture and support your staff at work. And, just so for me, it's a recognition, reflection, and then supporting.
Mm. Yeah, I love that, and I would say that that's how it shows up day to day. I think for me, it's probably similar to that, and then also shows up in the way that I speak about you to others,
Mm,
and even, like, to the kids. Like, you know, I want them to hear and know that, y like, you are the king, and you are to be respected, and, um, yeah, there are things that I would not be okay with if the kids said to you. They don't, like, I can't even imagine it,
no,
but if
no.
they did, it would just be shut down so fast, as I know it would be if they said anything untoward to me, you would
Mm,
be, like,
oh yeah, yeah.
right there, and I think it's that, when I think of, like, the king and queen, it's, like, the royalty and the sanctity of that position, and
Hmm.
I think of it for me, it's, like, the sanctity of the position and who you are and that, how I hold you in high regard is part of that, and then how that shows up in day to day is the way that I will talk about you, um, the way that we support each other and
Hmm.
do things the way that we interact day to day and the way that, we will speak about each other in front of others as well. I think it's
Yeah.
like keeping that in its place of like a high it's of a high esteem.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not like casual, like, I I wouldn't I wouldn't go away with friends and speak poorly of you.
I,
Um,
uh,
I would obviously, especially when we were going through things,
hmm.
I would definitely share things, but there's not this idea, and I don't even know if it happens because it's not my world, where people will go and just talk really horribly about their partners. And I'm not talking about where you share concerns or you're going through
Yeah.
something. It's different. There's a different quality to it when it kind of turns, and that's something I would never do.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I know that, and it's likewise here. Like it's not, uh, if I were sharing, concerns or just, where I'm at, that's different.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's funny because I don't really. It's I can't even remember really like that kind of dynamic ever having been a part of our relationship. It's you see stuff online and people are publicly humiliate their partners, even if it's a joke, quote unquote.
Mm.
And I couldn't even imagine that.
Mhm.
Um, it's it just I think that is very telling of the person, right? And I think holding someone else in high esteem is also holding ourselves in high esteem. And if I hold myself in high esteem, I would never do something or say something where it is destructive. Um, I think that's just it doesn't even it just feels so foreign to me.
Yeah.
It
Yes,
feels so
and
weird
so I
even to
think
think
yeah,
about.
I think that's the way that it plays out day to day is also in the things that do not happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That would
Yeah, well
not
said.
happen as a and I think also, like, it's one of the things that then dilutes the relationship because you're taking all of these things outside of the relationship,
Mhm.
and getting other so I also don't, find myself in situations where I'm really getting a lot of people's opinions on the relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And I think part of that for me too, even though I'm on social media a lot and all that, I keep there's a lot of things that are just private,
Yeah.
right? That don't need to be out there.
Yes.
And so I think for me that's part of it too. It's just sort of a sanctity.
I would love to know how you've kept and do keep your marriage and relationship front and center as your business has grown and you've become more public figures. How do you stay in the magic?
Uh, yeah, I think we have kind of covered that. I think
Yeah.
uh in terms of being out there, obviously you have a greater audience and you're more visible. I think there's like the self-containment piece, like you can put yourself out there a lot, but still hold certain areas private, which I just talked about. Uh and in terms of the I mean, it's a partnership. Like I support and I like you said, behind the scenes and I kind of, I always consider like, consigliere, just kind of around and counsel, whisper a little thing here, like I kind of see myself like that. Uh, but yeah, I think, I don't know. What do you think? I think we kind of covered some of that.
Yeah, I think we do. I think it's interesting. I think the self-containment because there is so much. Like I'm very transparent. We are very transparent about our relationship. Um, the things that have happened in our relationship. I'm very transparent of things that I have been through as well because I think that these are things that can help others. So there's an intention behind what we share,
Hmm.
and I think it could surprise people also how self-contained we are as well.
Hmm. Yeah, like not
Um,
everything is spilled out at all.
Yeah, it truly isn't, and so I feel like we do have something that is differentiated from the business as well, that is ours and that is sacred as
Hmm.
well, and, sometimes we'll choose to share things, down the road, but we have grown with the business, so um, our self-image has expanded to be able to enlarge for the business's growth. So it is the business's growth has never been a threat or
Hmm.
something that has come in the way of the relationship.
Correct.
It's
Yes.
always been in tandem. We've been growing, the family's been growing, and the business has been growing. It's all kind of yeah, I would say that so there's never been any friction
Hmm.
around it or someone feeling like, "Oh, I'm being left out because the business is growing," 'cause, we're both so involved in it.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Eh, yeah.
That's what I would say. That's what I would say to that. And there's so much growth that I wanna do, and it's not to me, it's not a threat to our relationship for the business to grow. It enhances it. Okay, final question. Oh my goodness. Hannah, Paul once explained how his connection and guidance works. Fascinating, but it's clearly different for different people. You are led by a strong intuition, and when you're in the flow on the morning calls, it feels like you're operating at another level. What I would love to know is how does your intuition manifest itself for you? Is it purely instinctive, or do you feel, hear, or see things that positively direct you in your day to day life? And when you're expertly guiding clients through their stuff. Well, before I answer how it shows up for me, in this question, they were saying that you've explained your connection and how guidance works for you. Do you want to just share a little bit about that for those that don't know?
I wonder who asked this. For me, the way that like spiritual connection, it is a bit different than your. I mean, everyone has
Totally
their
different.
everyone's got their connections, and they all have their experiences of spirit, and they all have their ways of connecting and all that. For me, it's multifaceted. I have clairaudience, so I hear things. Um, I also have clairsentience. I mean, everyone's got clairs, like these, like sort of supersized versions of their five senses, if you will. All in varying degrees. Some people shut them down completely, et cetera, et cetera. So, but for me, I tend to. There's a knowing I have, and also I do tend to hear things. I also do a lot of shamanic journeys, and I speak to my guides a lot. And I've had a lot of I've had some interesting things happen that you have kind of you've heard and experienced. And so for me, my connection is through conversation with spirit, like literally conversing, getting guidance that way. And also intuition. We all have intuition. But my channeling, so to speak, for you, it's like those 6 a.m. calls. Like you just, like you'll always say, I don't know where that came from, and you just go. And I hear you. For me, it's not that, it's more writing. Let's say it comes out in a different way where, and many of us experience this, you write something like, where did that come from? It's just, it's a kind of a form of channeling. And so for me, writing has been like that, or it could be in, now doing photography and video and, finding something, and there's that transmutation, and it's coming out in a different way that even you're in concert with the cosmos to create something that wasn't there before, but is throughout you. And so for me, my connection has been with guides, with, certain ways of doing things. And that's just my way. There's things that are very present and front and center. But for you, it's different, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you experience your connection with spirit?
For me, it's very different. I didn't even really think I had a connection because yours felt in a way kind of textbook, and I didn't have that, like, with your Claire's, and you were so tuned in and connected, and it wasn't actually, I would say years into the morning calls where I was like, "Oh, I'm basically channeling here."
Yeah.
So if I look at the difference even in those calls, and that's why I can do them 5 years later, every single morning for the most part, live, is
Yeah.
because it's a flow that is happening and I'm accessing something that is beyond the senses. It would feel very hard if I was just in the density of the 3D delivering that, and I would feel very tired afterwards,
Yeah.
which I don't feel at all. And so over the years, I think, well, what has happened is my channel has opened and just gotten larger and larger and larger to receive. And so the way that it has showed up for me is a deep, deep knowing and trust. So I don't really know many times what I'm going to speak to, but I am so guided that I'll get an idea of like, oh, reach for that book. And then that's what we end up studying that day. Or, oh, the integrity article, grab that. That's what you're going to study. Um, but I don't question it. So
Mhm.
for me, it's that knowing. I can't remember what is that called again?
The which one? The
That knowing, that
clairsentience?
feeling like that. It's one of them. It's one of the clairs as well when you just
Clairsentience is like a
yes,
knowing.
clairsentience, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say that I have. And
Mhm.
so when I'm coaching, I'm also just opening up my channel to coach. And I have that deep knowing, and with that deep knowing is trust. So because I have
Mhm.
trust, I don't how do I say this? Contradict or, deflect what is coming through. I just trust that this is what is meant for the client. And so even if you
Yeah.
listen to some of those morning calls, I don't listen to them, but it literally is sounds like a channel because I won't take a breath. It will just be this long thing, and I go into a trance state. So when I'm coaching, I go into a trance state and my channel is open and I'm connected to spirit, and that's why I feel like I really locked into that and I stopped trying to, you know, I don't know, move away from it or discount it, and that's why I think I'm doing the best coaching that I've ever done in my life over these last, I would say, last few years, and what's ironic is that in doing that also came some of the most difficult business challenges, I've ever had, because I think it was really calling on me to truly, truly trust that
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
as well. So
Yeah.
that's something that just came to me now about it. So for me, it is clairsentience, it is the knowing and the trusting, and that is what allows me to deliver at the level that I deliver, and I'm so connected to spirit and tuned in, which I think also allows my clients to get the results that they get as well.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was gonna say, and you said, is the trust, because I too, I think we all do. Like, it's those little things like, you know, go left. I'll be on my bike, turn left here.
Yeah.
Go down that path. Go do that. Like all these little things that easily I can say, why? Ah, question. I just do it. I just do it. And every single time there's a reason for it. Like, I'm like, oh, this is what, okay. And it's not life. These are like small things, right? Like they don't have to be these world changing, like, and if for anyone who's wanting to practice their intuition, that's one of the things I suggest is just, it could be a clear day and that little voice in saying, break, take an umbrella, just take it, like, practice that muscle. Do these, when you hear that little voice saying, what about this, what about that, just do it, just trust it and just see what happens, because that's how you build that muscle. And it's just, it all comes down to trust and let getting our heads out of the way,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that was it for the questions, Paul.
Ooh,
Thank
this is a
you.
ringer.
It was. We'll have to do this again, for season 5.
This is season 5, isn't
No, this is season 4. Or is it season 5? I keep
it?
calling it season 4.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
It's just now. We're just in the eternal now, past,
You're
present, future. So even if it is season 5, it's now. If it's season 4, it's now. It's all now.
you're in the season of your growth.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I look forward, Paul, to many, many more seasons with you, especially
Yes.
with these kids
I love
getting
it.
older, flying the nest. Oh my gosh. Uh,
That's gonna be a whole different phase of things.
yeah, now we're entering a whole different phase.
Mhm.
Okay, love. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Okay. Thank you for listening. And if you feel that there's somebody in your life that really needs to hear this episode, will you do me a favor and share it with them? Also, send me a DM too and let me know what you think. If there's some guests that you would like to see in upcoming episodes, let me know as well, because I would love to interview people that you would love to hear more from. And as always, please, especially if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, download, rate, review, do all of the things. And I will see you here next time on Possibilities. Bye for now.